Hi everyone, welcome back to our live classroom. I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to quickly revise some of the most important media theories of your UGC NET and mass communication exam. So let's start with framing theory by Evan Goffman. Goffman said how something is presented to the audience, the frame, influence the choice people make. Think about it. If a news report says youth protest for climate justice versus unruly students block roads, both might refer to the same event. But how do you feel when you hear each? Now, talking about the framing theory, we can say that the framing is the thematic newspaper framing what the news or what the sender wants to frame. All right. So framing, it's the basic of framing theory is that the media focuses attention on certain events. It's the focus of the media. All right. How media wants to showcase, and there are certain techniques. Framing theory is basically how news is presented influences perception. Right. So if we talk about framing theory, this is very much important from NTA UGC NET perspective, that it says that framing can be the thematic framing, which is the newspaper, the episodic framing, which is the TV, for more engaging than thematic. So these are the steps. All right. The symbolic inhalation, what the media wants the audience to think about. The four functions of framing are: frames defines problems. Framing, the moment we are framing the media, it defines the problems. Frames diagnoses causes. Frames makes moral judgment. And frames suggest remedies as well. So the next thing which we will be learning about the gatekeeping theory. Alright. So gatekeeping theory, in the models we have discussed about gatekeeping theory, so it's a quick revision that this explains how information passes through gates. You know, gates, the door or gates. So how information passes through gates before reaching the audience. These gates are controlled by editors, producers, journalists. So let's take another example. Out of 50 stories, only 10 gets reported. On the event news, the gatekeeper decides what you should know. So what do you think? Do you think it is the biggest gatekeepers in today's media world? Which one is the biggest gatekeeper? So you have to think it and answer it in the comment box. Now the next part which we will be talking about, the uses and gratification theory. The uses and gratification theory states that mass media effect, it's from the mass media effect research, which is empirical research. What people do to the media rather than what media do to the people. Alright, it states that what people do to the media rather than what media do to the people. Now we have Elihu Katz, J.G. Bumler, Michael Gruvich, Jack Slee. So active audience, the uses and gratification theory talks about the active audience, how the audience is performing. All over audience heterogeneous. Audience are always heterogeneous, right? So if we talk about uses and gratification theory, then what comes to our mind? Gratification means what thing is satisfying us, what thing is satisfying the audience, right? So uses and gratification theory traces it back to 1959, and this theory was redeveloped in 1974 as well. Now let's talk about various student friendly theory, the use and gratification theory. This theory shifts the focus from what media does to people to what people do with media. Alright. Gatekeeping theory tells about what media wants to show to the people, but uses and gratification theory shifts the focus from what media does to people to what people do with media. Got it? Instead of media controlling us, we choose media to satisfy our needs and desire. The core idea is people use media actively and purposefully to fulfill specific needs. The five key needs are the information. Can you tell me what are the five key needs? If you know, you can comment it down. So the five key needs I am telling you: number one is information, number two is personal identity, number three is integration and social interaction, number four is entertainment, and number five is escapism. The people use media to get information, to stay updated. Example, news app, YouTube explainers, etc. Now, the personal identity to reinforce values. Example, motivational podcasts, self-help videos. And these people use media for one more thing, for integration and social interaction, right? To feel connected. Example, sharing reels, fan communities. And the fourth point states that entertainment, for enjoyment and escape. Example, Netflix. Example, gaming. And escapism means to avoid real life stress. Example being watching comedy shows. So what we can say over here, the next what we will be discussing about is the dependency theory. Oh my god, the dependency theory. What is dependency theory? Dependency theory means how we are depending on the media. Dependency theory came in 1975 to 1976. Alright. Dependency theory came in 1975 to 1976. Now what is being stated in dependency theory? It's developed by Sander Ball-Rokich and Melvin DeFleur. Okay students, now let's talk about a powerful and timely theory. The media dependency theory. It's very important from examination point of view. Theory or media system dependency theory. So the core idea, if we talk about the core idea, the more dependent an individual is on media to meet their needs, the greater the media's influence on their thoughts, feelings and behavior. Alright, this is the dependency. Dependency of people on the media. Now we are dependent on mobile phones, right? So similarly we are dependent on media as well. When does dependency increase? Can you say me? When does dependency increase? When it increases, suppose you imagine the time period of COVID. At that point of time, dependency were increased. During crisis, dependency increases during crisis, during pandemics, during elections, during wars. What will happen? The media informs us, and the people tend to seek more information from that particular point of time. Now when media is the primary source of information. So now let's take another example of COVID-19 itself. Think about the COVID-19 lockdown. Most of us relied on news app, right? The social media and YouTube to understand what's happening. That's a high dependency situation. Alright, that's a high dependency situation, and media had a huge influence on our opinions, fears and decisions. Media, so there is a three-way relationship, the triangle model: the media, the audience, the society. Each affects the other. The media, the audience and the society, each affects the other. If society is unstable, like during riots, our dependency on media increases. In the chat, tell me what one situation where you felt extremely dependent on the media. Can you tell me? So if you know, you can comment down below. So the main thing is that the less social conflict equals to media dependency is less. If the social conflict is less, then the media dependency is less. If the social conflict, if it's unstable society, then the media dependency will be more. As simple as that, isn't it? Next thing which we will be talking about is the spiral of silence theory. It's very interesting. Spiral of silence theory is something related to What? Related to introverts. Spiral of silence theory. So, let's now discuss the most psychological, powerful media theory. It was established by Elizabeth Newman. People tends to remain silent, People tends to remain silent when they believe their views are in the minority. This is psychology. People tends to, they won't open up, they won't speak up when the majority is more. They might keep mum if they predict that their opinion will not be granted. They will be trolled. People tend to remain silent when they believe their views are in minority. Their views, their thoughts, their opinions are in minority out of fear of social isolations. That's fear of missing out, the social isolation part. How the spiral works? It's nothing but, the spiral works nothing but how? The media amplifies the majority opinion. Media amplifies the majority opinion, alright. People with opposing views stay silent. Silence creates the illusion of anonymity. Okay? This strengthens the majority further, creating a spiral of silence. So what they are telling? They are telling us that how they will be keeping silent. The theory also suggests that the cumulative effect, the consonance, the factors influencing the spiral of silence is that the fear of isolation, the accessibility of opinion, the willingness to speak, the contingency factor. Alright, so this is spiral of silence. To put it simple, spiral of silence means in a group when a particular individual is not willing to raise his or her voice, is not willing to state his or her opinion in fear of getting trolled. To put it simple, this was the concept. Now next we will be talking about cumulative effect theory. Cumulative effect theory, what does it mean? Cumulative effect theory. Cumulative effect theory suggests that everything is not very simple. Cumulative effect theory means that media effects are not always immediate. Media effects are not always immediate. Also known as the drip theory. Okay, so media effects are not always immediate. I repeat the term immediate or dramatic. They build up slowly over time through repeated exposures. Like water slowly dripping on a rock, not noticeable in a day, but impactful over weeks or months. If we talk about the example, they are watching fairness cream ads repeatedly might gradually shape beauty standards. It's a constant hitting part. Constant exposure to sensational crime news may make viewers feel the world is more dangerous than it is actually. The related concept, we can say that the mean world syndrome, which we discussed previously. So student, now tell me, what's one belief or habit you think you develop gradually because of media, not overnight, but over time? It can be the social media changed how we view relationships. Films shaped the idea of romance. News channel affected the political beliefs. So this was it with today's lecture. Hope it was helpful. So we will be continuing this revision lecture. Thank you for connecting at Ease No Media, where we discuss media related topics at ease.